Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about how you can take a 360 scan like this with Scanalogs and turn it into an exact copy with new screw channels and new holes for titanium bases. Great for customers who want an exact duplicate of a temporary denture or another fixed restoration in the mouth. So this is the data that we're working with. We have a 360 scan of the patient's current temp. This was a chairside conversion, and the practitioner just wants an exact copy, but they want it printed with titanium bases. So we're not going to reset this case. Eventually we will when we go into the final, but they just want something a little bit sturdy for a temp that's not necessarily a chairside conversion. So this was scanned in with the Scanalogs from Dynamic Abutment, and we want to turn this file into this file here. Something that we can print out that has new screw channels that are nice and clean. It's a solid piece and we can fit titanium bases into the bottom. So I'm going to walk you through the two workflows that you're going to need to accomplish this. We'll also discuss how you can set up and redesign your case if you wanted to just use this scan as a model and then design a fresh case on top of it. So the first step we're going to do is create a working model. This is going to be a virtual model that has the implant components attached to it. We need to have some kind of working model that has implant information saved to it, and we can use that for both workflows once the step is completed. So first thing you're going to do is select where your implants are. It doesn't need to be exact, just generally where they are, and make sure you have all of them accounted for. So we have 4 implants. And we're going to set this case up as a bar. And I'm going to select bridge here and go bar. And we're not actually going to design a bar. I found that this is just the easiest way to get us to a point where we can save a virtual model. I'm going to change this to digital impression and click OK. And now I'm going to import that lower scan. So we're going to go back and refine this scan. If your occlusal alignment is a little off, like in this one, I'm going to just set it with some points here. And my trimming tool has been a little finicky in 24, so I'm going to start with this paintbrush tool and then I will clean it up from there. I'm not going to sculpt anything at this point because we're just using this as a model for implant data. We're not actually going to be using this as a working model for this workflow. So I'm going to click Next. And now it's going to ask me to align my scan bodies. And if you get in this step and you realize you selected the wrong scan bodies in your work order, that's okay. Right here, you can select a different scan body if you need to. Your whole library will be accessible. I'm going to use this 3-point alignment, and the first one that it's asking for is the 3-5. So I'm going to find the 3-5 over here and do 3 points. Now you can see we have an implant model with our MUAs inside the model. So I just want to save this model as a working model. So I'm going to use the additional scans tool, go to the save mode. I need to click this keep additional information. Select my model and save it. And now you can save this somewhere on your computer where you're going to be able to find it again later. And we're not actually going to design a bar, so we can just close out of this work order. The next work order is going to be for your wax up bridge. In this work order, we can punch holes into any file that we decide. We're going to use the same file and clean it up a little bit in that design module. It's really important that you select the same teeth that you selected in the first work order, because if we select a different one, the data corresponds to a tooth number. And it'll tell you you don't have any implants in this model because it's corresponding and tethered to a specific tooth number. So make sure the numbers are the same as the one that you started with. Now we're going to use this wax up bridge tool here. or this wax up abutment tool here. And I'm going to set it to my tie bases. So these are the tie bases that I'm using. And I'm going to hit bridge and select the wax up bridge. And click OK. And this is where we're going to import that model, and then we're also going to import the original file that we had as our working case. So you can see here it's asking for the lower jaw. This is that working model that we just saved. And this is our original lower file. Now I'm going to right click and design. So when this opens up, you can see our original file still has all of the scanalogs and it's a little bit messy. So we're going to clean that up in the sculpt lower jaw section. You don't have to do it in this section. You can do it at any step, but we're not actually using this model for anything. So we don't have to worry about cleaning up this model. It's not using this information for anything aside from the implant locations. This is the actual data that it's going to punch the holes into. So we can use this additional scans tool here, and you'll get a new menu pop up, and we can clean up this scan before we go ahead to the next step. I just learned this today from a friend of mine. If you use the Band-Aid tool, it actually can remove these pretty decent. At this point, you can clean up your scan, you can modify it, you can make this look nice and pretty, keeping in mind that they wanted it to be exactly the same. So I'm not going to make too many changes. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit and carve out some of the teeth a little nicer. I am going to make sure that I fill in these screw channels because we're going to cut new ones that are going to be a little more precise. I'm going to leave it at that for now. We have another opportunity to cut and smooth and modify and play with these when we get to the actual sculpting step of our final product. At this step, it's just asking us to confirm in the model where those model analogs are. Now this 4-5 one was already placed, but I'm going to move it over to this one here. Now sometimes when you have a case where this last implant is angled quite steeply, it can be difficult to get an approved insertion direction. So if this was red, I would move it on my screen a little bit and hit set direction on the left side until it turns blue. So it's happy with this insertion direction, so I'm going to go with this. This step is showing us these little green circles here, and this is determining where that screw channel is going to start. The material needs to connect all the way up to the lip of this titanium base. So I like to just check that they are all in a nice circle around my implants, not too big, not too small. Sometimes they come in a little bit messy, so you can clean them up. So we're not going to click next, we're going to click here in this active cut spline. So we're looking at the 4-5, make sure it's on the 4-5, make sure it's going the right direction. That one looks good. That one looks good. Now for this last one, I'm going to edit it just so I can show you exactly what it means, what it's doing. So if I was to make it really large, you'll see in the next step exactly what this means and what it's for. So you can see here how it's adding material. Now look at this one on the far side. It's starting to pull that material from where I drew that cut spline. And so all these other ones are nicely just around the implant, and this one is coming from really far away. So I'll go back and fix that real quick. So you can see here that our design isn't purple anymore, so it's no longer considered an additional scan. And this is where you can modify your wax up even more, and you have some more of the tools that you're used to, aside from just doing it here in the additional scans tool. So you can clean up your design, make it pretty, make it how you want to do it. I'm just going to do a couple of things here. Again, this practitioner wants it exactly the same with no changes, so I'm not going to make too many changes. Alright, I would spend a lot more time on this, but as this is just a sample case, and again, they didn't want any real major changes made, I'm going to leave it as is for today. You can spend a lot more time and make it pretty and make it how you need it to be, but for the most part, if you're just making a copy of a temp that they already have, you shouldn't have to make too many changes. Once I click next, it's going to punch the holes all the way through, and we'll have our screw channels. Now we have nice clean screw channels. And on the bottom, you can see we have our holes for the titanium bases. Now, this is really important that you're selecting the right library. And if you're unsure, you can turn on the titanium bases here and just double check that this is what your tie bases look like, depending on which brand you're using. Again, these are the dynamic abutment ones. They look different from maybe the DES ones or the Argent ones. So make sure you're selecting the correct material in the first work order, otherwise you won't have the right size for your tie bases. And now I have a nice file that I can put in my printer or my mill, and I have an exact duplicate of the temp that they had in their mouth with a couple quick, easy work orders. Now, what if we wanted to use this data here, but we wanted to reset the case? So if we wanted to use this data as a model and we actually wanted to set new teeth and set a new case on this, we can do that also. We made this original work order that was just for a quote-unquote bar that we didn't actually use, but we can use that digital model in a regular denture work order as long as we have all of the other data that we need to set up a denture case, which in this scenario I do have everything. You just set up your work order for a regular denture, whatever your standard settings are for that, it doesn't matter. All we need is a file at the end that we can punch the holes through. So for this one specifically, to make my life a little easier, I'm going to set it to monoblock. So all I'm going to end up with is a monoblock file of my fixed case, and I'm going to throw that in the wax up bridge work order again at the end, but with this file instead. I'm going to set it to digital impression just so that when we do use that model that we made, we can make sure that it's clean and that it's easy to use in the denture workflow. So it's going to ask me for a lower, an upper, and a bite. The lower I'm going to pull from this work order that we made for the bar case. And the other scans I already have on file, so I will import those. The first one it's asking for is the lower, and this was that model that we had created for this case. Now it's going to ask for the antagonist, and I have that saved somewhere else. It's going to ask for a wax rim scan. Now my two scans are already aligned and I don't have a bite scan, so I'm just going to load the upper as my quote-unquote wax rim scan. If you had a bite scan and you had to align things, that's where you would add the bite scan. At this point, you're going to run through the denture workflow as you normally would to design one of your dentures. It's really important that your lower scan has these purple lines in it. This is indicating that there's implant data, and those lines are showing you the insertion direction of each implant and where that screw channel is going to eventually come out. So now we have our two pieces of data that we need for the wax up bridge module. So we have our new design as a monoblock file, and it is aligned to our implant model. Doesn't look like it has implants here, but we know from the design it had those purple lines coming through, so it does have the implant coordinations attached. Now we just need to run through the wax up bridge workflow one more time to punch the holes for the tie bases and the screw channels into this one. And now we're just going to pull those two files from this case and put them into our new work order. And for the wax up bridge, we're going to go into the CAD folder of that previous design. That's where that model block is going to be aligned. And now we have a file that we have designed with a new setup based on the tissue information from that temporary that we scanned in with the Scanalogs. We can make sure that it has all the right parts on it, depending on which tie bases you were planning on using. And now you're able to mill or print this and send this to your dentist. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time for more tips and tricks.